what you use as a background level for particulate matter.
That would be Mr. Holland.
Right.
I believe it's 9 micrograms per cubic meter from the monitor down at Scranton.
That's your increment level, that's your increment number.
No, I think that's the background concentration level. It's in the, you have to look at the application as well. So it's the most recent 3 years of data average.
Okay? And that number is not shown on the chart I'm looking at.
Okay. I believe from my recollection, it's 9 micrograms per cubic meter on an annual basis. That's the number.
All right, I'm looking here at the class 2 increment, 9 micrograms per cubic meter.
It's just coincidence that they happen to be the same number.
Okay. So, and what's the, I don't know off the top of my head, what's the national air ambient quality limits on PM 2.5?
12 micrograms on an annual basis and 35 micrograms on a 24-hour basis.
And I'm looking at a 24-hour basis.
35,
So 35.
35.
And you believe the background was 9.
9 on an annual basis, and I believe 22 on a 24-hour basis.
Okay, so the background is 22, the limit is 35. And your class 2 increment is 9. So that means under your permit, you can take it up to 31. You can, right, correct? Am I reading that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so when they say a percentage of your increment consumption is the ratio of the increase from 22 to where you're gonna be from your air quality modeling, you're looking at, I'm looking at, let's say, 6 micrograms per cubic meter. So you would be using 2/3 of your increment?
Actually, we're not using that much of the increment, no.
Okay.
We're using a much smaller number of that increment.
Okay, so what I'm reading in the permit, the July 17, 2015 permit, says 71% you are consuming 71% of your class 2 increment. That's incorrect.
Now, is that for the PM 24-hour, PM 2.5 24-hour?
Yes.
And that's from the state's analysis? Yes, then that is correct.
Okay, so your projections are that it will be less than that.
Yes. 6 micrograms is the number that was modeled in the analysis.
Okay.
And compared to the allowable increment consumption, which is a different metric than the National Ambient Air Quality Standard. It is a metric or a mechanism to provide additional control and assurance that you're not going to see the ambient air quality standards.
If you consumed all your class 3 increment, you would still be below the National Ambient Air Quality Standard.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay. So if you started at 22 and you consumed your total class 2 increment, you would be at 31, which is still below the National Ambient Air Quality Standard.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you asked me.
Anybody else, anybody have anything of Dr. Robert, excuse me, sorry, Dr. Robert. My apologies. Dr. Robert. Anybody from the public have any questions of Dr. Robert? Mr. Mullen. Bob, say your name.
Excuse me, Bob Murray, 806 Martin Drive, Chesapeake.
Thank you.
Dr. Roberts, I'd like to ask you a question. You said you're an epidemiologist?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, exactly what does that cover? I know that it covers, you study the causes of disease and certain patterns the way diseases affect people, correct?
Well, different populations, it could be animals, for example. I studied rabies, for example, when I was at the State Health Department. But you're right, it's looking at the variables that are associated with the disease or an outcome.
Okay, well, my question is in reference to the particulate matter that a lot of us here tonight have been alluding to. Isn't that a fact that the finer the particulate matter, the more damaging that it will be to lung tissue?
Up to a point, that is correct. But one of the things in the very fine particles, for example, when they go into the lung and come out, they may not get trapped in the lung.
Yeah,
But the finer ones, certainly, that is one of the ways that before long, that they'll be delivering medications. But that's one of the things that's calculated into the ambient air standards.
Okay, well, as far as particulate matter that will be emitted from this type of industry, I'm under the understanding that once this particulate matter gets embedded into the lung tissue, the human body has no mechanism to expel it. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Well, it's written that way, Doctor.
Well, I would disagree with it. I'd be glad to look at your reference, but one of the things is, we have, in our lungs, we have what they call phagocytes. That's the name of
No,
the
I know
cell.
what, I know what.
And they actually eat, they engulf the particulates and take them away. And so there is a
Yeah.
cleaning called respiratory cleaning or toiletry that happens.
Exactly, but does that not happen before the particulate matter gets embedded into the tissue? The phagocytes engulf the particulate matter before they get a chance to get in there. But the fact of the matter is, my understanding, that still a lot of the particulate matter will reach deep down into pulmonary tissue.
I would not be surprised if that were the situation, but that's what one of the phagocytes are there, is to clean it up from what we're all breathing.
No, and I do understand that.
Okay.
But like I said, the problem still arises, especially in children. Now, let me ask you this. Is particulate matter, is that an inert substance?
Excuse me?
Like, is there any chemical activity once it embeds into the tissue?
It totally depends on the particle.
Okay, well, I'm referencing the particles that will be emitted from gas power plants.
One of the things is, you're combining it, we'd have to ask the engineer this, but from the medical standpoint, you're saying like car. Okay, there's all different types of cars, there's all sorts of different types of particulates. And so some of them are totally inert, some of them don't have any chemical reactions, some of them do. So you can't say all of them have that effect.
Okay, is the effect accumulative?
It's additive, let's put it that way.
Okay, but yeah, but are you saying additive? I mean, that's a difference between that and
Okay,
accumulative.
it would be the same thing.
Pardon?
I will assume it'll be the same thing.
But it's not, it's not additives and, okay, so when you're saying that it's an additive, meaning that what's embedded into tissue today and what's embedded into tissue tomorrow is gonna accumulate. If you have so much particulate matter getting into the lungs today, and so much tomorrow, and so much the next day, and especially in children with compromised lung function, elderly with COPD or any other form of compromised lung function, are they not at a very high risk of possibly getting severe problems, health problems from this type of industry?
Not this type of industry.
No, doctor, I mean, these types of pollutants, these types
Bob,
of.
slow down. You're wrong. Let him answer the question.
So,
I didn't finish my question.
are you finished?
Yes,
All right, okay. The point being that our bodies are continually bombarded every day. Whether it's children breathe faster than adults do, but they breathe less volume. But the whole point is, those are all taken into consideration when you're setting these levels of our life. That's the whole thing. The problem comes in when many times our homes don't meet ambient standards because of cooking, the types of gas we use, the off-gassing of paints and those sorts of things. So it is cumulative. There is the body has a mechanism to protect, to clean up your lungs. But there is some that's gonna stay in the lungs. I will totally agree with you.
all right, well, me ask you this, I meant, I have one more question. I mentioned, you know, the proximity to this plant to the landfill. With the are you familiar with the landfill?
Landfill hasn't been mentioned, but I know about landfills.
Okay, well, we have one that's gonna be within, what, 3 miles?
It is.
2.5 miles? Okay, so would that present a more hazardous health condition like the children? Because it's recommended that children don't go out and play in areas where there are any particulate matter between 10 microns and 2.5 microns, which are, as you well know, it's like a 1/20th the size of a strand of hair. So why is it recommended that children do not leave their homes and play in areas in close proximity to these types of particulate matter?
They can't go outside.
Yeah, that's right.
Anytime, anywhere, they couldn't go outside if you're not gonna, if you say they can't be exposed to particulate matter. I don't
Well,
understand.
no, what I'm trying to say is that we have a Little League ballpark within a half a mile away,
Right.
or maybe a little bit.
And so you have to ban the kids from sliding into first base or home?
No, what I'm saying, is that presenting a problem, especially we have 9 to 10% of the population, the pediatric population has some form, as you all know, some form of lung compromised problems, whether it's asthma, bronchitis, acute bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, whatever it may be. If there's a 10% population of the children that present with this type of problem, will this not put them in harm's way?
Okay, I'm not gonna agree with you about the 10%.
Well, it's nine, I read where it was
I'm not
9%.
gonna agree with you, okay?
9%.
But what I will say is, that no matter what the percentage is, this is one of the things that's considered when that scientific panel gets together and discusses what the ambient air standard should be. Remember, it's set for the most sensitive segment of the population, and that includes children and the elderly, and people with things like emphysema.
Okay, thank you.
So will it put the children in harm's way? That was the last part of his question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mr. Seaman?
Dr. Roberts, you said that you made a...
Just for the record, Tim.
I'm sorry, Timothy Seaman, 401 Clarkson Avenue, Jessup. You made a reference to kids lighting in the home plate and breathing in the dust because there's particulates there. The particulates coming out of the plant will be much different than the dust around home plate, correct?
Yes.
Much finer
The whole place, it's gonna be dust.
for the most part.
It's gonna be.
And isn't it true that the average particulate size will probably be around 2.5 microns, and that going into your lungs, that a decent amount in high enough concentrations will go into your bloodstream and circulate through your body, not all be eaten by phagocytes and transported out with your cilia and mucus out of your lungs? Isn't it true that a lot of it will get into your circulation and can cause cancers, can cause disruption of...
No,
So they can't, none of the particulates or chemicals coming out of there
no,
can...
you generalized way too far. Let me finish, because you throw a whole bunch of things in there. I've never said that anybody will not breathe in these levels that we're talking about. These are the levels that are set by the EPA as being safe for the general population and for that sensitive subset of the population. I've never said that some of them won't get into your lungs, won't get into your bloodstream, but I can't show you the epidemiology that will say that there's an increase in cancer from doing that.
And many of the emissions that are gonna be coming out of the stacks will not be monitored on a regular basis. Many of the chemicals will not be monitored. I think there were 12 chemicals or 14 chemicals, and only 3 will be monitored on a regular basis. The others are deemed not appropriate.
Is that a question, Mr. Seaman?
It is.
Well, what's the question?
Your
asked if he's aware of that.
conclusion was based on the fact that the Aeromod study, which used no wind, there were no